Hey, this one is a good morning. Sorry, maybe it's good afternoon. This is Diane.Boerstler Henderson, and I have bumped into this question a lot lately in our Facebook groups about what are the biggest mistakes that are killing people, killing sales, really on Amazon specifically, and then how these carry over onto any place else you would even consider selling a product, right? So I'm going to go in today into four sales killing mistakes. It was three sales killing mistakes and a bonus, but I believe that the fourth one's important enough for me to spend a little bit more time highlighting. So it's three, it's four. Either way, it's four things that you may want to take a look at to see if that's how you're depleting your Amazon product success. Okay. Okay. So as you know, my goal is always to make sure that your pinnacle premium product is profitably dominating, right? I work with people who create the best of the best, and I want to make sure they're selling like it. For those of you who don't know me, which is probably not a lot of you, I founded Neuromarketing Millions Method, Hypnotic Amazon Listings, NLP Hypnocopy, trainer, author, speaker, blah, 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 blah. I've actually, a lot of these trainings I've done have gone out to over 237,000 business owners. I've had more than 4,000 successful client products launched and relaunched to the tune of $5 billion in sales for those clients. And I have a 97% success rate. So if you're questioning how I would know what these four things are, it's because I've worked with 237,000 business owners in trainings, and I've successfully launched 4,000 products for clients. So that gives me a little bit of insight over the last 13 years to kind of revisit this every year and let people know what people like what the biggest struggles are right now, right? And every year, and sometimes every quarter it changes. So it's really important. This one's for Q4 2022. Some of these are just ongoing things that sellers are struggling with, and a lot of it has to do with the trainings they took. That's where I'm finding a lot of the core source of this poor rooting of these weeds that are causing these sales killers, that are sales killers, right? So there's some misconceptions out there about actually selling on Amazon or selling a product online in general right now. So we're going to go into those. Okay. So mistake number one that I see people using, and this is becoming more important this year than ever before with the increase in competition, right? You're using copycat code, right? And so your highest profit and your biggest needle moving task is actually superior differentiation and positioning of your product. It's what your customers see in terms of an underlying code, and it's what they see and what, like, how their brain interprets it, right? So your highest task is really your sales fuel. And your sales fuel is that underlying code that the subconscious mind's computer, right? Think of your customer subconscious mind like it is like a computer. It must run a code to activate both a conscious and physiological buy now sequence. And you've probably heard me say this over and over and over and over again, okay? The buy now sequence goes something like, I take out like people think, oh, okay, they see my product, they take out their credit card, they're going to buy it, or they click add to cart, they're going to buy it. That is not correct. That is the very last thing, and that is just the physiological portion of the buy now sequence, right? That subconscious to conscious portion is the largest portion. And for people who've been experienced sellers outside of selling an online product, people who've run extremely successful businesses, C-level executives, VP of sales and marketing, VP brand management in large ad agencies, they completely understand this. So if you're one of those people, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, and you're going to understand that that's how the money is actually generated, that sales fuel, right? But the conscious process that somebody goes through in order to make a decision to purchase a product has 5 customer awareness levels at entry, a whole bunch of belief craft to transition things around. And then you must have that perfect positioning beyond and that differentiation beyond those psychological sales triggers that we need in there, right? So really, it's a whole underlying code that we use to trigger the buy now sequence. It's not just one specific or two specific things, right? So your sales assets, even, they require the sales fuel, right? They require this positioning and differentiation well before well before they show up in your sales copy. So your sales fuel is not your sales assets. It's not your sales copy. It's not your content. It's not your listing. It's not your graphics. It's not your photography, logo, commercials, sales funnel ads. It's not any of that. Okay. That's not your sales fuel. Your sales fuel informs that and infuses into this to trigger that customer's buy now sequence, right? The sales copy is kind of like the pathway to the buy now sequence. The graphics are kind of like the visual, like the visual movie that kind of activates that buy now sequence. But those are things, right? Anybody can say, I'm a sales copywriter, and they can go and write a bunch of words on a piece of paper. But if they don't have the underlying sales fuel first, and most sales copywriters are not trained to do this, right? Especially not at the level that we're trained to do this. If they don't have that sales fuel, your sales are going to fall flat. Same thing with your graphics. You can have really pretty pictures and really cool stuff, and you get be all lifestyle-y, and I took it by a pool and all kinds of cool stuff. I had my best friend who's a supermodel do it. That is not going to sell your product, right? It's not the graphics, it's not the sales copy, it's the sales fuel, right? And the whole trigger sequence. Okay, the sales fuel is also not your marketing. So if you're out there thinking organic, keyword targeted, that marketing is very important, but it's just to get people in the door. If they get in the door and they like your competitor's product more because their competitor's product has a sequence, right? Like that alpha profit dominator sequence that we create through sales copy and graphics as well. It gets infused into it. If they like that, if their brain likes that a lot better, then they're going to buy. It doesn't matter how many people you drive traffic from. It doesn't matter where the traffic comes from. It doesn't matter how many people walk into your digital store. It's not going to matter at all. You're not going to have sales, right? Your sales fuel is also not your product. Your features, your benefits, your guarantee, and all the traditional positioning points that we're about to go over, and differentiation points, that is not your sales fuel, right? Your sales fuel is like the coating that informs and infuses into these. And without your sales fuel, you don't have sales. Okay. We can pull every single one of these out of here. And if we have sales fuel, we have sales. We can place sales fuel all over the place and all kinds of different assets. And then we have sales. We can make small assets. We can make large assets. We can make assets any place, funnels, content, graphics, sales copy, advertorials, anywhere. And then we can direct some kind of marketing to it, usually targeted marketing or keyword marketing in the case of Amazon. And then you have sales. You have conversions, you have sales. Without that sales fuel that informs and infuses into all of these different pieces, it even informs a lot of times your marketing, places like, like Facebook, right? It goes on your ads there, right? Without it, you don't have sales, right? And without it, you're easily copyable. And even if you're making the most sales right now, if anybody can come along and copy you, then in any way, and using the same words you're using, which we're about to go over, which are not positioning points anymore, they used to be, or copying anything about your product, if they can copy you and they can outframe you and they can outposition you and they can outdifferentiate you and they can anchor that in neurologically into the customer's mind, you will not be able to sell like they do, and they will come in and steal your sales. And I have people come to me all the time saying, we were doing so well. We were doing $1 million, $2 million a month. And we thought that if we, re-optimize, right? I want you guys to get that word out of your head. You are not re-optimizing anything. Okay. Keywords, you can re-optimize keywords, but what you're doing for your Amazon listings and for anywhere you sell online is not optimizing anything. You're creating sales fuel. Okay. Without the sales fuel, optimization doesn't matter. Okay. So people are coming to me and they're saying, and these are not my current clients, these are clients who start working with me. They're saying, we're doing $2 million a month with this one product. And all of a sudden we're just like, this other product came on the market. There's, all these products selling for more than ours, and a couple of those are smoking us. And there's all these products that are selling for cheaper, and those ones are smoking us. And so we've had so much of our market share depleted right now. Please help us figure out what's going on. And I take a look at their sales assets across the internet, and I'm like, you're missing superior positioning. That hypnotic positioning and differentiation is not here. Customers are given no incentive to purchase from you, because instead of using actual positioning and creating your positioning and differentiation from a point of neurolinguistics and, like all the different neuromarketing points, you're using old-fashioned positioning and differentiation. It's like you got it out of a book, right? That's what most sales copywriters are doing too, right? They don't know how to write words that sell unless you're giving them that positioning and differentiation, unless you're giving them those 52, that combination of 52 different things that helps you become that alpha product, that product dominator in your market, right? So what I started doing with people is saying, go through, look at all your sales assets, look at all your sales fuel. If you think that your sales fuel is any one of these, that is not positioning, that's not differentiation, those are now customer required confirmations. If a customer is choosing between you and 3 other products or 4 other products, like your product and 3 or 4 other products to buy, right? And your customer sees all of these things on the other person's product, and this is on their checklist of things they want, right? In a product that they buy, then they're going to go through that checklist. And if they don't see these on your checklist, as customer required confirmations, then they are going to you're just going to get moved off the list, right? So these are required confirmations. These are not positioning points. And I see this all the time. Like, well, we're positioned as the highest quality, or we're positioned because like I say, what makes your product superior? And someone will say, oh, well, it's It's all natural, non-GMO, organic, environmentally friendly, high potency. It's the highest quality. You can use it differently than any other product. It has these characteristics or something that, it has nothing else has. It's the best value. It's the most affordable, right? None of that is positioning. Okay. That goes in the customer's required confirmation box where they're checking off the list. That doesn't go in the superior alpha product box that activates that buy now sequence that makes me want to buy, right? So on this first page, we have all of that, right? The product attributions, product use, product application, product characteristics, best value or most affordable, right? If anybody lowers their price or if anybody copies any of this stuff, which is really easy to do, right? Especially with international patent laws not recognizing a lot of private label sellers or supplement sellers, who I work with a lot of people do things in and on the body products, right? International patents don't recognize those. So anybody can come in and swipe what you're doing, right? So your product is not superior. It is the framing around it that makes people see it as superior and buy, okay? It's the differentiation around it. It's the positioning around it, right? And these are not positioning, right? Okay, so same thing. If you're like, well, my product is a luxury product. It has great aesthetics. It's the highest quality, or it's the most dependable or the longest lasting. Also not positioning points. These are customer required confirmations. Okay, customers have a choice of 18,000 products. They want to see all of these, and I promise, I'm only telling you this to really, really help you, right? I'm really tired of all of these trainers saying, okay, well, here's how you do this. And then you go and you hire somebody with this title and they're going to do this and then it'll convert, and they get really sad conversions and they can't even make enough to keep selling the product, right? So I'm trying to, right now, I kind of feel like I'm almost in like crisis rescue mode for a lot of people because there's a lot of misinformation out there, right? So that's why I'm hammering this home so much, because this is the biggest mistake I see people making. Okay. So all of these things, most dependable, longest lasting, any way your product satisfies the customer's needs, that they can be replicated or copyable. Anything about your process or of the creation or formulation, like of your product, the source of the materials or the source of where you get your ingredients for the creation or formulation, the materials or ingredients of the creation or formulation, the product class in which you sell your product. So if you're like, hey, we're going to reposition our market over here, and that's going to mean that we're now dominating this market, I totally think you should. And if you are looking for additional channels in which to sell your market, not platforms, but channels, not marketing channels, but channels like customer channels, right? Customer acquisition channels, hit me up. I love doing that. But that does not, like, anybody can go in and say it's dried milk and now we're going to sell it as a breakfast substitute and a protein shake. And the next person come in and say it's dried milk. We're going to sell it as a breakfast substitute and a protein shake, right? Okay. So also the variety, the variations you have, and anything you group together. Okay. So like if you're like, well, we have 5 pet toys, the next person comes along and says, we have 6 pet toys, and the next person's like, we have 7 pet toys and a squeaky mouse, right? Any of those groupings together that can be copied is not positioning. That does not make your product superior. As soon as someone else gets wind of it and they can copy you, then your product is no longer superior and you're losing market share, right? As soon as somebody can create the same thing and sell it for cheaper than you, then you're losing market share. And especially as soon as someone works with somebody like us over at Neuromarketing Millions, and then they come in and you have a product and it's like grouped together or has a variation, and we come in, then everybody starts losing sales because of the framework, right? So don't believe for a minute that because and I had heard this guru saying, well, you just change a bunch of things out in your products. Like you combine these things together, or you add that you use this variation, green outsells black. And I'm like, okay, no, because then somebody else can come along and do the exact same thing, right? And we literally take listings that have 0 reviews and launch them to 28 and 50 and $100,000 a month, right? Doing what we're talking about doing right here without having, we don't handle the traffic, but we launch them to that level. And that's without any reviews, guys. So, I mean, if you're like, okay, well, they have 40,000 reviews, I can never beat them. It's like, well, I go and I beat those people. So even though they have 40,000 reviews, doesn't mean they're untouchable. Think of all the companies that have collapsed since you've been born, just alone, right? There's hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands that were once upon a time like the top company, the top product seller, the top thing, right? They're gone. It's because they didn't understand this. Also, if your product has your product performance, it can be achieved by a similar product or other solutions, right? There's no barrier. Like if you're thinking, okay, well, I have this high barrier to entry because they have to be highly knowledgeable. Well, your customer, if you're highly knowledgeable and your customer is not, that might be part of your positioning problem, right? You might have to have somebody bridge that gap, but I digress. So there really is no barrier to entry for investors, right? So like if you have to invest $100,000 to get a supplement to market, which a lot of people do, and some people do it for 20 and some people do it for 50, and then you're going through and you're like, okay, great, well I can do this, I had $100,000 and this, like, nobody else is going to compete with me. Okay, there's a lot of people out there with $100,000, you know what I mean? And we have people running around selling online products who are thinking they could go get a $5,000 product and just stick it out there and it's going to outsell the competition, and they'll get like the glory of Amazon like raining down on them, or of anything like Google Shop, anything, right? And it's kind of a delusion, and those people are the ones that go out of business. And I don't want you to go out of business, so that's why I'm very direct about this. So if anybody else can achieve that efficiency, same thing. There's no barrier to entry. Money is an unlimited resource. The only resource that is limited is time, right? The efficiency that anybody else that any other product can achieve, if that's copyable, the lifestyle or identity status that anything else can help them achieve, right? Um, that is also something that's copyable, and we see that copied all the time. And people come to me and they think that they know what they're doing, and bless their hearts, because I know they're really trying. But they'll say something like, "It's a lifestyle product." Sorry, it's a lifestyle product, right? Or this is, and I'm like, okay, great. So what makes this lifestyle product superior to every other lifestyle product that's like it? That your customers can choose, because they're literally staring when they go to Amazon. Think of them as like, it's like your wagon rolling in, like your old fashioned wagon rolling in, right? And it's like your wagon used to roll in, and you would be selling this really cool thing to a small town of 4,000 people like 150 years ago, right? You got your horse, you got your wagon, you put up shop, and it's just you, right? So now you have 4,000 people in a town, and it's selling on Amazon or selling online at all is like having 18,000 wagons roll in, and you're trying to get those sales, right? And you always see that wagon you always see the wagon, like, or at a fair where there's like 50% of the people grouped around them, right? That's what you have to be thinking about. You want to be winning at that level, not winning at the level of, well, I got a couple sales, so I'm okay, or we're breaking even, so I'm okay. If you can do better than break even, I would recommend that you do whatever it takes to do better than break even, so you can grow and expand and really, like if you're like our family, create a legacy. That's the whole point of doing this, or retire, have that freedom to go and do whatever you want to do, right? Not have to have the threat of going back to a job, the job. Okay, so also the abilities that helps customers achieve or gain, if that's copyable in any other way, that's not superior positioning, okay? So reminder, go through all of your sales assets, and I want you to take a yellow highlighter or an orange highlighter or something and highlight every place that you see any reference of any of that, right? So if you're like, ours is the most dependable, it's the longest lasting, it's the highest quality, those are not positioning points. Make sure that you've achieved an alpha level positioning point and that you're figuring out how to anchor it in there. And I've recorded several videos not on all 52 by any stretch of the imagination, because some of them require a lot of expertise to execute, right? They're very easily malpositioned and misunderstood. But there's a few that I've recorded on things that you can do right away, right? Like you can do an HPPA, which is a hypnotic power positioning anchor, right? You can go through and find the video on YouTube here with the HPPA, right? You can go through and do claim no claims. You can do all kinds of different things. Like I said, I have 52 superior positioning mechanisms that I use in Neuromarketing Millions, okay? So next time, think of it as a checklist for your customers. Make sure that you do an analysis of your competitors' sales assets, as many as you can get your hands on, like your top 5, top 10. Write down all these things that they're considering positioning and differentiation that are actually customer required confirmations, and create graphs and charts and checklists and add them to your bullets, right? But don't use them as your superior positioning points. Don't focus entirely on them. Those are customer required confirmation checkpoints for you to stay on their list of considerations. It's that superior positioning, that alpha product domination sequence that actually knocks them into the add to cart and makes them want to check out. Because your whole goal is not to sell a product. It's not to acquire a product. It's to sell, right? Automatedly online. Okay. So remember, your highest profit and biggest needle moving task is superior positioning and differentiation. That is your sale fuel. And in order to create that sales fuel, you need to create the underlying code that subconscious mind's computer must process to activate both the conscious and the physiological buy now sequence. Okay. So think about it from the point of your customer having a problem from the very beginning. What is going to be their superior solution? How do you execute those neuromarketing points, those 52 mechanisms, right? And put those together into what you would then, they inform and infuse in your sales copy and your graphics, and are part of activating. It's like the customer facing part of activating that buy now sequence. Okay. Mistake number 2, you are malinvesting. Your product is a thing and it won't sell itself, right? So your product, in order to sell on Amazon or online, if you're an online product seller or you're a CEO of online product sales, right? Or a marketing director, brand line director, you guys have, there's so many cool titles out there now. Every product requires its own digital salesperson that works 24/7 on holidays, on weekends, on their birthday. Um, that digital salesperson is both a one-time investment and then an ongoing investment, right? So if your initial investment of $5,000 makes you 50,000 back, any business owner in any business would say, holy crap, that's amazing, right? So that's a steal. Anyone who can create that, can do what you do. The thing is that, like, anyone who can create that kind of return investment, right, is going to be able to go in and do exactly what you do, which is acquire a product. It's not hard, right? So finding a product that will sell in the market that has enough room for competition isn't hard. Okay. That's how they can teach it in these programs. Getting a product to the United States, not hard. Getting a product into a box, not hard. Shipping something, not hard. Those are all things like a 12-year-old can do. Okay. So what you're really looking at is selling a product. Okay. So since your product won't sell itself, and it requires a top 24/7 digital salesperson that's infused with the sales fuel that we discussed, right, just a few minutes ago, a minimum of 30% of your investment, and that's a minimum, should be invested in creating that high-powered, perfectly positioned salesperson, right? People are focusing all their money on creating products. And then they're like, oh, I only saved $200 aside to sell it. Well, I guess you better get on learning how to do this, because nobody else who is worth their weight in anything who can get you those kind of results is going to even think about working with you, right? In fact, if they see that, they're just going to turn tail and run, and you might get blacklisted on the back end, for insanity. So the small businesses that invest 50% to launch, 50% on their launch, right? So 50% or more of their money is directed towards creating these sales assets, getting that sales fuel locked in, not on their product acquisition, right? Those are the ones who are making huge gains. Okay. If someone shows you they can make you $50,000 minimum in the next 6 months and then continue to make you money with that 24/7 digital salesperson, and they only ask you for $5,000, I mean, that's really not bad, right? Because that person who's creating a digital salesperson could just as easily, there's like this delusion. Okay. And this is really the mistake of behind the malinvesting. There's a delusion that if I create a product, it's going to sell. If I put a product up online, it's going to sell. And that is really how it works. But the person who's creating your digital salesperson, like I said, could just as easily create a product of their own, create their own 24/7 digital salesperson with the pinnacle alpha positioning and differentiation that triggers that buy now sequence, all while investing only the same $5,000 you did if you invested $5,000 into your product, right? They can invest the exact same amount as you invested on your products, and they can go sell, right? And then because you didn't invest correctly in creating that 24/7 digital salesperson, you're at a loss, right? So the mindset shift is that the skill set that makes you the money isn't sourcing. Okay. It's not being able to acquire a shipper. It's not product selection, right? That's why there's 18,000 of each thing selling on Amazon and 50,000 or 30,000 of each thing selling across Google Shop, right? So, I mean, obviously, if there's a market for a product and you have this buy now positioning, this alpha product positioning, you're the one who can dominate the market among the other people dominating the market, right? So that means that like 5 to 10 people are going to win and like 17,990 people are going to lose, right? It's just kind of the game of averages, right? So since the skill set isn't sourcing, the skill set isn't shipping, the skill set isn't being able to type into a box to talk to people in Alibaba, or, the skill set isn't, hey, I can create this formulation. The skill set is that salesperson, right? So the successful people aren't focused on sourcing nearly as much as they're focused on dominating with sales. So they are using that alpha product domination, the positioning, the differentiation, and the words and graphics where it's implemented. They're using that as their main investment, right? Because they realize, okay, great. So I got this thing in, and if I put it up on this platform and I drive traffic to it, but other people are on that platform and they're driving traffic or in a sales funnel, and those other people have other options, and I'm driving traffic. Now I'm investing in traffic. I've invested in acquisition, but I haven't invested in permanent conversions, permanent and scalable conversions, right? So give me a second here. Okay. So There are very few in the world who can successfully understand and implement this alpha product dominator type sequence, right? Most of those people work for top 5 global ad agencies. They make 7 or 8 figures a year. And so most sellers, like product sellers and product CEOs, cannot afford them, right? These are people working on things like Pepsi, okay, or like L'Oreal, right? They're the ones who create that superior positioning and all of that, right? So if you refocus your investment not on, I need an Amazon listing, or I need a sales funnel, or I need a sales page, or I need an email, to I need a perfectly positioned and differentiated product that drives sales like an alpha dominator, right? You're going to be positioned among those 10 that are making it in the 18,000, right? Oh, sorry, there's something funny in the room. Okay, so unless you know how to do that yourself, right? And there are a few people out there who do. Like I said, most of them work for ad agencies, or these are the people who sell 8 figures a month of their own product and they don't hire this out, right? And they'll tell you to go find somebody with a certain title, right? So unless you know how to do this, invest your time and money into acquiring the person who can create that 24/7 digital salesperson. Don't, like, if you invest $5,000 in your product, you should expect to invest at least that much making it sell, right? So there's a big mindset shift there, okay? And expect to invest that plus potentially a percentage of any monthly gains they help you create, because they can easily create anything you've created. They can outposition you, they can out-differentiate you, they can transform the simple things into the alpha product in the eyes of customers, and they can put you out of business. Okay, so invest in the people, right? A players invest in A players, right? So I have 2 case scenarios, right? James invests $5,000 into acquiring his product. Okay, it's a thing. It's a thing anybody else can acquire, anybody else can create, and if it's not created or formulated yet, anybody else can copy after it's created and formulated, right? We have to have that constant competition mindset, right? It's like kind of like a post-apocalyptic product mindset, right? So we're in the post-apocalypse of like everything sells. James invests $5,000 into having his product created and has it shipped to Amazon, right? He starts getting silly and he decides that the product he created, by its sheer existence with him as the creator, will successfully compete on Amazon among 18,000 other options. James is what we call duped by a guru training program. It is not his fault. He was told that he was to go find someone of a certain title. He asked other inexperienced sellers for referrals. They pointed him to people with the title of Amazon listing optimizer or sales copywriter or graphic designer and sent him on his way with zero clue about what actually accelerates sales, both on Amazon and any place else that you are to stick sales fuel and sales copy and graphics, right? So poor James is super confused. Okay. And I've actually, worked with James, and James came to me, and then James left and I didn't work with him, and then James came back. Okay. So James, like I know James in person. I know a lot of Jameses. Okay. So James Whitney hired the cheapest people possible, right? He's like, okay, great. So I'm going to hire someone with this title and someone with this other title, the title of Amazon listing optimizer or Amazon sales copywriter, and the title of an Amazon graphic designer. Okay. Now it's time to ask yourself an eye-opening question. Do you think James is taking the right actions and focusing on the right things? Right? Of course not. James is focused on the completion of what he believes to be a task that anyone with that title can accomplish. Right? So this is the second biggest mistake I'm seeing people make, right? James is seeing like this is a task checklist of images and words, just like your customers are seeing all of the things that you're writing in your images and words as a task checklist, right? Okay, he doesn't know the difference. No one's ever educated him, right? So he's not thinking like a product CEO. He's dreaming about big sales and showing how, and dreaming about talking about, the big game about successfully growing a business. He's not being that person, right? He's not being the person who is thinking like a product CEO and who's behaving like a product CEO. Okay. So that mindset again comes right back into it. He doesn't realize that 24/7 digital salesperson is going to fail because he isn't looking at it as an investment. He's looking at it as an expense, right? And he says, well, I can't afford to do better. You absolutely can. Rule number 1 of entrepreneurship is figure out how to find the money. Okay. So if you want your product to sell 1.5 million a month or 50,000 a month or whatever it is, you need to figure out how to find the money to create that 24/7 digital salesperson so you can hire your air players, right? The people who are succeeding are the people who do that. Those are the people who are getting aggregated and acquired because they have product sales that are through the roof. And those are the people who get to go on and do whatever it is they want after they've sold for a few years. That's pretty good. This much investment for a few years, and then suddenly you're able to do whatever you want to do. Some people, a few months, right? That's how I started. The first person I started with said, hey, this was way back a long time ago. He said, hey, I need to bring my wife home. She's pregnant. She's having her baby next month, our first child. And I want to be able to support her. And I have to replace her income. I'm going to go do this thing selling on this platform, which almost nobody had heard of at the time. And he said, great. I said, great, let's give it a shot. I've never worked in this platform before, but the platform doesn't matter. The sales fuel does, right? And the implementation of the sales fuel does, and triggering that buy now sequence does. Okay. So he said, great. Okay, great. So I asked him how much he needed to replace his wife's income. And he told me, and I said, well, this is going to be, we've done this before. We can do this again, different platform. And within within 1 month, obviously we were able to replace her income. And within 3 months, we were able to bring him home. Okay. So then he left his big company and hired a CEO for his big company, and then kept replicating this, and eventually ended up selling his brands. And then he went into the finance side and sold that company. But he had that CEO mindset, right? Didn't matter if he was like, I don't know how I'm going to make this happen. He was like, I'm a product CEO. I am a, services CEO. I know how to do this, right? So James kind of hired a secretary instead of a world-class surgeon. And I always think of your product as like your baby, right? So I would never let my baby be operated on by a secretary. I would insist that only the best proven brain surgeons handle it. Okay. And again, you can hire whichever brain surgeons you want. Just make sure they actually deliver results, and make sure that the results they're guaranteeing you are equal to the investment that they are requesting from you. Right. So let's see here. So, okay, we already went over that. Let's see. So the other thing that I want to say about this is the only person who makes more than the CEO in a company is the top salesperson. Okay. Without those top salespeople, there is no business, right? You can have a product or a service, but if nobody knows about it, right? Like if you haven't positioned it correctly, if nobody knows about it, anybody can come in and outsell your competition, right? No matter how they you can, with this particular thing, you can outsell your competition no matter how they pivot or how deep their pockets are. They're not going to be able to copy you or how cheaply they sell, right? We're rendering you uncopyable with that, like when you overcome mistake number 1, and with mistake number 2, you're doing it permanently. Okay. So that was James, right? So Jill, right? Jill is close to the name of the actual client that I'm talking about. Jill, we launched, I want to say in July, right? So no, May, April. It was in the spring. I moved over the summer, and so my brain is still a little scrambled with the months, right? Moved 7 kids 3,000 miles away. Great idea. We're having a blast, by the way. It's an amazing move. So Jill already has the CEO mindset. Okay. She realizes that there are 3 departments in every business: the deliverables department, which is Amazon fulfillment or whatever your 3PL is, and your product after you source it and ship it. Okay, the marketing department, which generates your traffic. Those are the people who bring customers to see what it is you want them to buy. Those are not the people who convert prospects into customers. Those are the people who bring in people who see what you want them to buy, right? So that's still a high risk. And then your sales department. So many Amazon sellers and online sellers completely skip over creating their sales department, right? So Jill gets it. She created a sales department, and everybody else is operating under that misconception that they need to reserve money for marketing, right? Which is great, but you can bring in all the traffic you want. But if your product's not positioned to sell, right, and outsell your competition and continue to, regardless of the depth of their pockets, the size of their wallet, or how cheap they decide to sell their product, your marketing won't matter. Okay. It's critical, but it won't matter, right? It's like pointing a hose at a house that's on fire and not turning on the water. That's what marketing is without having high conversion setup. Okay. Think of it that way. Your house is on fire. You have the hose. You're not turning it on. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Right. So Jill decided not to listen to the trainers. And I know this is a real case study. I know this person personally. I knew the last one personally too. Didn't listen to trainers because a lot of our trainers could afford, she realized as a business owner, a lot of these trainers, they can afford to, and bless their hearts for training everybody. I love them to pieces. Okay. But they can afford to make mistakes. Okay. They can afford to make mistakes in their first product or their second, on their 100th and their 105th, their 110th product, right? Because they already have success, right? So instead of just learning how to sell products on Amazon, Jill went out and said, how do you grow a business? How does an actual business run? I'm going to be a CEO of a product business, not going to be a seller on a platform or in a funnel or on, anything, right? So she came in prepared. And so she realized that creating that 24/7 digital salesperson, that sales department within her organization, just like a regular business owner does, is really the highest and best use of her time and her money, right? So hiring that person with a proven track record to create that fuel and the assets that drive those sales is her highest return on investment task. So James is out $5,000 on acquiring his product and the rest on hiring cheap people with specific titles. Jill actually skyrocketed the first month. Okay. And I'll show you how this worked, right? And I worked with both these people around the same time. And now, like, I didn't work with James before because he came in and he said, that's too expensive. And I said, you're in the wrong mindset if you're thinking about expense instead of thinking about profits. You know what I mean? You're looking for an investment that multiplies to profits, not an expense, right? You make money first, you figure out how to save money later, right? Okay, so here's how these two case scenarios played out, right? Jill, she is the CEO product business owner. She invested pre-launch about $12,000. That was in her product. It was about $5,000. And then she invested $7,000 in creating that sales fuel, the sales assets, all of that, right? So a lot of people are saying, oh my God, that's a lot of money to invest. It's really not. Month 1 through 6 return, the revenue was $299,000. Okay. And that's not a high for me. That's not a high for us. That's not, I mean, we have people doing $1.5 million a month. We have people who come back and say, wow, that's exactly what we needed. We've been stuck for a year. And, now it's like we're making 8 figures off this one product and we're making a bunch more off the other variations. And we have people who come in and are like, wow, we invested, $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 to work with you. And we're making 18,000 more per month per variation. Okay. So Jill thought like a CEO product business owner, and she came out with just on this one product with a return of $299,000. Right? Jill has the mindset of, I'm going to take full responsibility. I decided to source this thing. Now I'm going to do whatever it takes to sell it. Right? She realizes the product is not what sells. It's the fuel behind it. Okay. It's the positioning, the differentiation, right? All of that. And then James, he kind of, James invested $7,000 pre-launch. That was $5,000 on his products. And he invested $2,000 on a whole bunch of different sales assets. And the reason he invested $2,000 was because he went to one person, had them poorly created, and then they didn't work. And he went to a second person, paid cheaper, and have them poorly created, and they didn't work. Right? So James couldn't compete. He was eating storage fees for about 6 months, and he's looking at the cheapest disposal options for his product. Right? And James goes back and he blames Amazon, and he blamed the guru trainer, right? And guru, I say with the utmost respect. Guru, I mean, are like these people who are making it on Amazon or online sales, and they're doing really well, right? Those are like my gurus. I'm looking at them going, okay, let's mastermind together and figure out how we can help everybody else, right? Videos like this are supposed to help everybody else. So Jill's outcome is she was able to easily invest in making more product babies because she's thinking like a CEO. Also thinking like a CEO product business owner, she didn't go out and buy herself the brand new giant house, the brand new giant car, and go on a vacation for 2 months and just kick back and like give up. Then she said, how do I turn this money into more money babies, right? How do I turn this into more money? So she started looking at sourcing additional products, right? Those are the highly successful people you're seeing are the CEO product business owners with that mindset from day one. From the moment they start looking at, am I going to sell here? Is it worth my time? What is my actual investment going to be as a business owner? Not what's the minimum I can pay for this thing that I've acquired by spending a lot of money on it after chatting with somebody who understands how to ship something someplace. You know what I mean? It's a completely different mindset, right? So she's been able to expand her product line. She continues to dominate. She creates legacy for herself and her family. At this point in time, even with this one product launch, as her launching 2 and 3 and 4 more products, retirement is relatively secure. She does not have this much in expenses, right? Money is no longer a worry, right? Because she now understands what it takes to replicate these products. She can create more and more and more and more of them, understanding that it's not the product that she sells that makes her the money. It's the fuel behind it. It's the things that trigger the buy now sequence. So she can source just about anything with a good profit margin, right? She can go up against almost anybody with a good profit margin because now she understands how it works. And she may not make $299,000 off of every product in 6 months. Okay. She might, but I have clients who are making, oh dear Lord, we launched them last year and they're making, 1.5 million a month. I have clients who have done months where they hit 150,000. The next month they do 40,000 because they're more seasonal. Right. So really it's not your product, right? So that's the biggest thing. Okay. Mistake number 3 kind of ties into that. It's who you're being, right? Your hours invested doing things does not equal success, right? You need to change your come from to who you're being to a product CEO versus like a scrambling seller. I see so many people who source a product and they start scrambling saying, it's going to be here in 2 weeks. It's going to be sitting at Amazon or my 3PL. They're going to be charging me stuff. I need to have everything ready to launch like now, right? But I forgot to ask for help and I thought I had it covered, right? Okay. Your hours of doing things do not equal success, just like being rushed and making a rash decision at the last second does not make you successful. Okay. A lot of people say, well, I can launch, like I have to launch now and I'll relaunch later. Okay, great. I understand that if you're in paralysis analysis, but your come from really determines, your decision making, right? So your level of success has nothing to do with how many hours you spend doing things and everything to do with the person you are being. It's your come from. Your mindset is a big part of that. If you start being a CEO whose sole purpose is to monetize, make money with a product online, like monetizing your product on Amazon or anywhere else, your being that person is what dictates your actions and how you invest your time, right? So the CEO who's already successful and coming from that place, they are not rushing around at the last second like a chicken with their head cut off. They come from a place of knowing. They come from a place of knowing how to invest with all their resources, their time, their money, their expertise, right? They know they have strong boundaries. They know what to do next. They know that they know that they know, like they trust themselves, and they know how to get mentorship and hire experts when they don't know. And knowing that everything will turn out amazing as long as they take the right steps and the next step and the next right step, like that's the place you want to be coming from, right? So find someone you admire and reverse engineer what they're actually doing. Make sure that person is not the person you paid for your training program, okay? You want to choose someone who is a business owner, who is not necessarily a product like sales CEO, right? You want to choose somebody who's a successful business owner at the level where you aspire, like Jeff Bezos, right? Make decisions from that place. Ask yourself, like, what would Jeff do? Or what would Elon do? What would Bill Gates do? What would whoever it is, like, anybody you want to, all these amazing people on Facebook who are like thought leaders, subject matter experts, that go to like, look at what they would do, right? They are not scrambling around. They're taking swift and decisive action versus rushed and rash action, right? And this really matters when you're launching, because a lot of people come to me and say, I got to launch in 2 weeks. Can you do it? And I'll say, no, you're not going to be launching anyway in 2 weeks. Even if your product's here in 2 weeks, you should always have your product shipped to your house, especially the first tranche of it, to check all of it. Your first shipment, check all of it, right? All of it. Okay. Every single time. Or have somebody else do it. Send it to a quality assurance center, right? Really important when you're launching a new product to make sure that the thing that doesn't take you down are those silly, like I'm going to have 1 million returns, or this product is actually really crappy and they kind of bait and switch, like they did a bait and switch on me, right? So make sure it's shipped to you, right? Make sure that you are being a product CEO and not a scrambling seller. Make sure you're not worried about where it's going to rack up fees, and do not plan on launching until your 24/7 digital salesperson is ready, not when your product gets there. If your whole focus is product fees, it is not profit, 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 profit. If you wouldn't throw it out on the sidewalk and expect somebody to leave a $10 bill for it there, don't launch it without your 24/7 digital salesperson being there. It's just common sense, right? A business doesn't just like open its doors and say, hey, we're going to launch this, this thing and expect that, we're going to open our doors, but we're not going to, actually put our stuff out, right? We're not going to make it so that people can walk through and it's activating their buy now sequence, right? That's a problem, right? Same thing with marketing. We're going to tell a whole bunch of people, and here's what that is like. Here's what launching without your 24/7 digital salesperson is like. It is sending out 1,000 flyers, which is your, traffic, right? And it's having your product behind padlocked glass doors, and all these 1,000 customers show up, but like they can't experience the product and it's not positioned correctly yet. And those doors are padlocked. And so you just spent $1,000 or 2,000 or whatever it is, $10,000 on sending a bunch of traffic to a non-optimized, like a product that's not positioned and not like the customers can't understand why it is that they should buy your product instead of anybody else's, and your doors are locked. And it's kind of like, you're like, hey, here's these products. Why aren't they moving? Why aren't they selling? Why are my competitors outselling me? Why are people buying the cheaper one? Why are people buying the more expensive one? Because it's not all about price. And then be thinking, like, who will do it, right? Not how can I do it all? Because you can't, right? So find that invisible mentor and don't rush. Be swiftly decisive and execute. Okay. If you start feeling panicked, literally do what we do. Stop, do 10 box breaths where you breathe 4 out, hold for 4, 4 in, hold for 4, and do not make a decision until you have done that, until you've calmed your sympathetic nervous system down, right? Otherwise, your come from is panic. Like, oh my God, I'm going to owe Amazon $1 million because my product's going to sit there forever. No, it's not. But it is going to sit there forever if you don't have a position to sell. If you're 24/7 digital salesperson, isn't like totally aligned with what it is that is going to trigger your customers buy now sequence, it is going to sit there forever, right? So then it won't matter if you launch and you put stuff up and you generate traffic because you have products sitting there. Really, it's not that much money. Okay. So number 4, which was originally, I believe, a bonus mistake, is it's BSR, not BKR. Okay. I'm hearing all these people that come to me that want to talk about keywords. Okay. BSR equals best seller rank. Amazon dictated that. It's not BKR, which is best keyword rank. That doesn't exist. Okay. 24/7 digital sales people without any keywords in the middle, you can still make all the sales you need to by advertising. Okay. But if you have a 24/7 digital salesperson without advertising, keywords aren't going to save you, right? At all. It's not going to matter. Like, think about it. Your keywords can't pay your bills. Okay. So what I want you to remember is keyword ranking is driven by sales of your product. Okay. Sales of your product is driven by conversions, right? And of course, that the conversions are driven by that 24/7 alpha product position digital salesperson and your sales assets where that thing is infused. Okay. So the most important thing is really that alpha product positioning digital salesperson. The second most important thing are the sales assets that help support conversions. The third most important thing is traffic. And the fourth most important thing is worrying about saving money on keyword ranking. Okay. So don't overstuff all of these different things with keywords. Don't focus on keywords. I realize it's the easiest thing to focus on because it's the easiest thing to understand and digest. It makes things feel predictable, but really it's not. It's like a trap. You know what I mean? All these people are like, I optimized with keywords. Great. You're going to re-optimize every quarter with keywords. Okay. And it's really not going to make a huge difference no matter what to what you do, to your sales. And the whole point of a product, putting a product online, isn't so you can feel good about. I mean, if you were doing this so you can feel good about having a product online and show everybody, hey, look, here's my Amazon product. Awesome. That's absolutely great. And that's your measure of success. My measure of success is making clients who sell products money, making product CEOs money, making brand managers look good, making the marketing directors look good, right? That's my measure of success. It's not just putting a product online, right? And again, this seems like it's, kind of a cold, harsh wake-up call for some people, but truly, I wish that everybody else was out here telling you this, that like, if you never learned about keywords in your entire life, you would be absolutely fine to sell products online, as long as you knew about conversions and that positioning. Okay. So remember, organic keywords are your least profitable time investment. Okay. They're your least profitable financial investment. Position first to make money, then position to save money. And if you keep saying to yourself, well, I don't really have the money to go make money. Okay. Rule number 1 of entrepreneurship is find the money, right? Those of us who start, like, I don't bootstrap anymore. There's no way. But when I first started out, I started out with a $7 book. And then I found out that I had to get, something else and something else. And I started just looking at, like, what are the 10 ways I can make money this weekend? Can I clean somebody's house? Can I go babysit? If you're at that point where you really don't have, if you have a business and you really don't have enough to invest into creating something to sell the product that is your business, and those sales assets really are your business, and the sales fuel really is your business, right? You don't really have a business, you have a product, right? So if you want to have a business, those of us who have the tenacity to go out and like do whatever it takes, run a garage sale or whatever, do whatever it takes to do that, pick up a second job and like take your focus off this for a few minutes so you can go and get yourself financially straight. That's what's going to make you the money, is, knowing how to find the money and knowing how to create more money, right? Your job as an entrepreneur is to find a problem, solve the problem for money, take that money, turn it into more money. That is what an entrepreneur does. Okay. So a summary, the biggest sales killing mistakes. Number 1, your ignorable positioning. Okay. Customers can ignore you. People can copy you. People can trounce you in sales, and people can trounce you in pricing. Okay. So respect your product enough to create the alpha profit dominator positioning and differentiation. Sorry guys, next time I'll bring water, I promise. It's a one-time investment that sometimes you have to invest in a few times in addition, and it's a lifetime payoff for as long as you sell your product. If someone says, hey, I can make you $50,000 in 6 months, but it's going to cost you $5,000 right now, and 20% of anything that I add in sales to your product, that's an automatic win, right? It's a lifetime payoff. It's like, okay, great. So I'm going to pay you $5,000 because you're the expert and you guarantee you can get me sales. And then you're going to charge me 20% of any increase that it is that you generate for the next 12 months. And so, let me think here. If I'm going to generate $300,000, that means I'm going to pay you $60,000 of that. And I'm going to have to pay you $65,000 to have made $300,000, which is a net at 30% of like 100 and something $1,000, right? So instead of doing that, where you're like, oh, I can only afford to do this much. Don't look at what you can afford. Look at what you need, right? And figure out how to make money. Rule number one of entrepreneurship: get the money. Mistake number two is malinvesting, right? So your salesperson generates the money, not your product. Any pro salesperson can create the exact same product as you, source it, create it, whatever, and smoke you, right? They can usually also afford to hire people who have your expertise. So just keep that in mind. A players invest in A players. Product CEOs act from the place of a product CEO, okay? Mistake number three: who you're being. Act from a place of competitive business owner instead of the person who's trying to put something up on Amazon or a sales funnel or a website or anywhere, right? You want to compete and create a legacy, take action like it. It's really simple. The person you're being is what generates your success, not the action, not what you're doing. Following a checklist from a training program isn't going to make you successful unless you're being the person who can actually take the right actions, right? So launch when your salesperson is fully ready to bring you money, not when your product is ready and like has been shipped, okay? A players don't scramble and scream. They take swift, decisive action, okay? If you find yourself scrambling and screaming, stop. For, box breaths, 4 in, hold, 4 out, hold, okay? And again, that's not medical advice. It's just what I do. And then bonus mistake, make money first, focus on saving money later, optimize keywords every quarter. Your savings should be coming in. How do I increase my conversions and increase my profit spread, right? When they're talking about saving money, it's profit spread. How do I increase my profit spread? Okay, you don't cut out anything that is making you money, right? So you go through and you reoptimize your keywords every quarter, right? You can do that in your advertising and go look at what's making you sales and then put those in where your keywords belong. I'm not even going to go into keywords. That's a level 1 task, and I'm a level 5 person, okay? I have trainings on it. It's really easy to do keywords. My kids can all do keywords. It's super duper simple, right? So if you have questions, feel free to drop me a line, okay? This I really hope has helped you. I really hope this is helping a lot of people who I'm seeing just get slaughtered in Q3 and Q4 right now. And it's not my clients who are getting slaughtered. It's all these people I see in groups and forums and everything like that. You're also welcome to join our group. We have a group on Facebook, and if you want to join it, I will drop a link below, and you should come over and see what we're doing. We're doing amazing things with this advanced accelerated product positioning and differentiation. We've created these 52 mechanisms for automatically increasing sales, right? I've created these. And people are saying it's a field, it's a brand new field, it's a field all its own, but I've been testing this for over 13 years. And really, I just recently reverse engineered it and said, what am I doing that is making all these people all this money and everybody else is not able to do it? So if you want to join our group, I'd love to have you. No matter what, it's a Friday, so I'm signing out. I hope you have an amazing weekend and that your family is doing really well. And hopefully we will talk soon.